Chris, Natalie, and Amanda are three American college students traveling around Europe. Before heading to their final destination, Moscow, they plan to stop by Kiev, Ukraine, to visit Chris's brother Paul, who works and lives there. The day before they leave, Paul suggests an outing to Chernobyl, the Pripyat ghost town. With plenty of time on their hands, the trio agrees to this adventure. En route to Pripyat, they decide to join a tour organized by an extreme travel agency. At the agency, they meet Yuri, a Russian-speaking guide with extensive experience. Also along for the ride are backpacker couple Michael and Zoe, adding to the excitement of the journey. During the trip, Yuri delves into the history of Pripyat, once a bustling city inhabited by workers from the Chernobyl nuclear power plant and numerous scientists that thrived. However, since a serious nuclear accident in 1986, over 50,000 residents were forced to evacuate, turning the city into a desolate, barren exclusion zone. In the van, Chris asks Yuri, "Do you really think we'll be able to enter that ghost town?" Yuri smiles and replies, "Of course, I'll ensure your safety. Pripyat may be deserted, but it holds a profound history that will surprise you." The group arrives at the checkpoint of the Chernobyl exclusion zone by car, only to be stopped by local guards who forbid entry into the city for sightseeing. Yuri looks at everyone with a resigned expression and suggests, "We can enter from another place." Paul, puzzled, asks, "How do we do that?" Yuri points to a remote entrance and says, "Follow me." They bypass the unguarded entrance and enter the ghost town. The car stops under a small Ferris wheel in the amusement park, where Yuri pulls out a Geiger counter to measure the area's radiation levels. After confirming it's safe, he begins to introduce the scenery and history to everyone. Pointing into the distance, Yuri says, "That's the nuclear power plant, and the source of the disaster is in reactor number 4. As everyone snaps photos, Yuri discovers some burned remnants in a nearby room. He frowns but offers no explanation as the sun is setting. As they prepare to leave, they hear noises in the hallway and realize it's a black bear. Startled, everyone runs in different directions. When they return to the car, they find that the wires inside have been completely chewed through. "This is trouble," Paul says anxiously. Yuri tries to use the radio but can't reach the checkpoint. "We'll have to wait in the car until daylight and figure it out from there." In the darkness, the sound of dogs barking echoed, followed by eerie, infant-like cries. Yuri drew his pistol, preparing to investigate outside, with Chris following him out due to some disagreement. "Are you sure you want to go?" Chris asked, his brow furrowed. "Of course, I can't just sit idly by," Yuri replied resolutely. Soon after, several gunshots rang out. Paul rushed out, helping the injured Chris back into the car. Wild dogs surrounded the outside of the car, and the group luckily hid in the darkness, enduring until morning. "We need to find Yuri," Paul determined. "We'll go too," Michael and Amanda stepped forward, offering to help. The three of them eventually found Yuri's communicator at the entrance of a building, following the blood trail inside to discover Yuri's torn-apart corpse in the darkened kitchen. Suddenly, a humanoid creature entered the kitchen, beginning to feast on the corpse. Amanda quickly grabbed the nearby pistol, with Paul and Michael immediately following her and fleeing. Paul led the others back to the car and suggested quickly starting the journey to leave. However, Chris, due to his leg injury, was unable to walk and had to stay in the car with Natalie, waiting for rescue. "We can't just wait like this. We need to find help," Paul urgently addressed the others. "Paul's right. We can't sit around. But we can't leave Chris and Natalie here either," Andrew worriedly pointed out, gesturing towards the two in the car. "We found a bus we can use to get out of here," Michael optimistically informed the group. "That's great. Let's hurry and tell Chris and Natalie," Lily exclaimed excitedly. However, as the good news spread, a pack of wild dogs caught wind of their scent and began chasing them. "Quick! We need to get out of here fast," Andrew called out anxiously. The group hurriedly crossed a wooden bridge, successfully escaping to the other side. As night fell, when Paul and the others returned to the playground, they found the van was not in its original position but flipped over at the other end of the clearing. How could this happen? How could they be taken? Lily asked in panic. Let's check Natalie's phone for any clues, Paul suggested. Through the videos saved on Natalie's phone, they discovered that Natalie and Chris were attacked by unidentified mutated creatures in the car and then taken away. Paul's emotional breakdown reached its peak in the dark building as he anxiously searched for any sign of Chris, every dark corner making his heart race faster. Chris, where are you? Paul's voice echoed through the empty building, only to be met with silence. Finally, he found Natalie, curled up in a corner, her face filled with fear and despair. Paul immediately rushed to her, embracing her. Natalie, are you okay? What happened? Paul asked worriedly. Natalie shook her head, unable to hide her panic. Paul, they took Chris. I'm scared. Paul silently vowed to protect her no matter what, even if it meant risking his own life. Michael's map became everyone's last hope, but that hope was quickly shattered. Look, there's an escape route here. Michael exclaimed excitedly, only to be disappointed as the route led to a dark corner. This can't be. We can't rely on this damn map anymore. Amanda said angrily. Paul's insistence on not giving up on finding Chris, while admirable, put them in a more dangerous situation. I can't abandon him, Paul said firmly. Amanda's persuasion helped Paul calm down slightly, realizing that the most important thing now was to seek help first rather than blindly risking their lives. Paul, I know you're worried about Chris, but right now the most important thing is to find an exit first, then we can figure out how to save him. As the group realized the map led them to a dead end, a sense of despair filled the air among them. Meanwhile, the radiation levels in the area continued to rise, adding to their pressure and fear. What do we do? Are we going to die here? Natalie asked tremblingly. Suddenly, the appearance of a little girl stunned everyone, her back facing them, unresponsive. Hey, little girl, what are you doing here? Michael cautiously asked, but received only silence in response. This made Paul and the others even more panicked, as this strange scene seemed to foreshadow a darker fate. We need to get out of here quickly. Staying here any longer will be dangerous, Amanda said urgently. As they tried to approach the little girl, Natalie was once again taken away by a mysterious force, weighing heavily on their hearts. Natalie. No. Paul's heart sank into despair, but he knew he couldn't stop now. They had to keep moving forward. As the crowd followed Natalie's screams, they first came upon the body of a military sentinel, which only heightened their fear and unease. What in the world is going on? Amanda asked in terror. Paul observed their surroundings vigilantly, trying to maintain composure despite his own fear. I don't know, but we need to get out of here as quickly as possible. Eventually, they made it to a sports stadium, but it didn't offer much solace as numerous mutants began to appear around them, swiftly giving chase. Quick, into this warehouse. Amanda urgently pointed towards the direction of the warehouse. The group hurriedly sought refuge inside the warehouse, only to find themselves in an even more perilous situation. They had to search for an escape route, and eventually they found an underground air raid shelter. We need to get out of here fast, Paul exclaimed urgently. But as the group hurried into the underground shelter, Michael, who was bringing up the rear to cover them, was grabbed by the mutants. Michael. No. Amanda's voice echoed with despair. Paul, Amanda, and Zoe continued their escape through the underground tunnels, passing by abandoned medical beds and equipment, feeling overwhelmed with despair and helplessness. What do we do? We'll be trapped here, Zoe asked anxiously. We need to find a way out. Paul's voice was resolute. In the end, they found a safety ladder to climb out, but a horde of mutants quickly closed in, leaving Zoe behind to be surrounded. Paul, hurry. We have to go, Amanda urged frantically. Paul and Amanda helped each other, scrambling up the safety ladder desperately, hoping to escape the horrors of the underground passage. Paul and Amanda rushed into the abandoned control room of the nuclear power plant, their bodies severely affected by exposure to high doses of radiation. Amanda's skin began to ulcerate, while Paul suddenly lost his sight. Amanda, Paul, I feel weird. Paul, me too. I can't see a thing. They managed to run outside the nuclear power plant, only to encounter a patrol of Ukrainian military forces. Paul, unable to discern the environment, kept moving forward, perceived as a threat by the military and ultimately shot dead on the spot. Meanwhile, Amanda was taken to a mysterious scientific facility. There, several Russian-speaking doctors learned of the news that all escaped radiation patients had been found. They believed Amanda knew too much, and thus couldn't be left alive. Amanda was dragged into a dark cell, the small window on the cell door barely illuminating her face with faint light. She helplessly watched as the doctors slowly closed the cell door. Then she was surrounded by a large group of mutated patients, the rustling sound getting closer and closer. Finally, the small window was also shut, cutting off the last glimmer of hope.